Welcome in, everybody, to the Preserve. We are right behind the green of hole number 18 for the press conference of the Preserve Championship 2023. And the tournament director, course designer, athlete extraordinaire, Cale LaVisca, you are in the house. How are you feeling right now? The tournament is starting tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, it's about time is all I can say. I just want to welcome all you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I feel great. We've been working hard for, essentially 4 years, but especially the last few weeks, we've been really going hard. The staff is killing it. We made some changes. We're all ready to get the show on the road, that's for sure.
Well, talk about some changes. This place seems to always undergo something new every year. What is the goal in doing that?
The goal in doing that is just to create more balance. I love the woods. Minnesota disc golf is known for having great wooded courses. Obviously, we are on a golf course, but when we lease this extra 40 acres that's mostly forested, we're able to kind of add some different elements to it, more technical elements. This year we created a brand new hole 5, which is a short technical, very specific line on a par 3. The goal is just always to create more balance. We got to be mindful of the places the spectators can go and want to keep that aspect of it, but creating some more technical shots throughout the layout is always something that we're shooting for.
How hard is it to cut into fresh woods to design new holes?
Not hard, because I'm blessed with just an unbelievable team, honestly. Grizz, Josh Winter, these guys are absolute animals. I come up with the ideas, kind of share my insight on which trees I think need to go, and I can come back a couple days later and know that my team is taking care of it. It's pretty remarkable. So with guys as good as that, it's really not hard at all.
So then talk to me about your goal for how the course should be scoring this week. I know in the past, fun has been like a big part of what you try to design for the players and the spectators. Is that going to be similar this year, or are the scores going to be a little bit higher?
You're correct. Fun is what we're going for. That balance. And I think with these changes that we've made, the scores will be a little bit higher. This course, like similar to Des Moines last week, is very wind dependent. So when the wind gets up, even like it is right now, about 10 miles an hour, it just raises the scores. But if it really gets going like it can out here, right on the river, shooting 6-7 under par is a great score. But if it's nice and calm, a lot of these holes are still very birdieable. And I think scores will definitely be in the double digits if it gets calm. But yeah, I think the changes that we made will definitely make it a little tougher.
Well, let's talk about this property in general, and you being the mastermind behind it. Everyone thinks of this as the dream, is to have your own disc golf facility and bring everybody in to see it and experience it. What is the dream actually like day to day?
It is a dream, because I still have to feel like I need to pinch myself sometimes to make sure that it's real. It's more work than you could ever imagine. I knew it was going to be very difficult, and it's exceeded all expectations on that front, but it's also been more rewarding than we could ever imagine. Having all of you guys here right now, having the kind of disc golf spotlight of the world on Minnesota is so special to me. I still have moments out here when I'm walking down the river in the morning and the sun's shining over the river. I still have moments where I just can't believe it's real. But yeah, we're 4 years in. We put a lot into it. We still got a lot more work to do, but it's the most, probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done for work, for sure.
Well, fantastic. I guess the thing I want to ask you after this, before someone else comes in to ask you questions, what is the hard part of having the dream come true that maybe people don't see on the outside?
Well, for me personally, that's a great question. For me personally, the hard part is finding my balance, because, playing competitive disc golf on the top level is still something that's the most important to me. I'm not able to do it as much. I've had to sacrifice a lot on that front to build this place, but that's probably been the most difficult. I love watching Disc Golf Network on the weekend, but it's always tough for me to not be at these events. So kind of finding that balance of still being able to play my at least 6-7 big events each year, and knowing that all the hard work we're doing up here is paying off, but yeah, I'd say that's the toughest part, is watching all my peers shred these courses every week and not be there.
Well, thank you, Cale. We'll see you out there this week. Here's some more questions.
Thank you, Brian.
Cale, I just want to know, how concerned were you with the smoke from the wildfires, Canadian wildfires, coming into this week? And do you think it had any effect on any of the players practicing this week?
You know, unfortunately, it's the last few summers in Minnesota. It hasn't been very uncommon to have the smoke, which is not very good. But I really wasn't too worried about it. Just given that a couple years ago the smoke was way worse, and we were able to kind of pull through and make that happen. But I mean, yeah, it's obviously tough. You know, like when it gets up to those levels and you can just wake up in the morning and smell the smoke in the air, you know you don't want to exert yourself too much and breathe that in. But the way things are trending, it's looking good for the weekend, so I'm very happy about that. And today already feels a lot better than it did yesterday. So hopefully we don't have to worry too much about that this week.
Excellent. And then when designing a course like this, how hard is it for you to design it balanced, not just this is the course that I want to shred, I want to throw, but for something for the Pro Tour?
Well, you know, it is so important to have an unbelievable spectator experience, right? You know, that's what's funding these large purses. That's what's making us put 3-4 weeks of work into this and allowing us to, have bleachers and all these accommodations and food and beverage. But the first couple years it was difficult because we were so new. You know, the first year we opened up the preserve and then we had a Pro Tour here event within a month. But now that we're 4 years into it, I get to sleep on it a lot more and think about some new areas that we want to go, some new places we want to kind of dedicate some resources to. So it's been easier knowing that we've had some time to kind of ease into it and figure out exactly what parts of the property we want to really reach.
Awesome. Thanks, Cale.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Joined here by Calvin Heimberg. Calvin, we're back at the Preserve. We're back at Cale's place. I guess my first question is, where are you staying this week? Are you on site? Are you somewhere else? And how do you feel about this place in general?
Yeah, I'm staying at the course this week. I'm staying like 200 yards that way. Yeah, it's always exciting to be back. It's always a really fun week being here. We're right on the Mississippi. There's some good lakes to swim in. You can look for some rocks out here. But yeah, always happy to be back. They have made some cool changes to the course. They seem to make some modifications every year, and I think the ones this year were pretty solid, and I'm pretty excited to see how they play out.
What changes stick out to you as like very solid decisions made?
The one that I like the most is the new par 5 they have on the back. I guess it's hole 14. They combine 2 old holes, and it works out pretty good into a pretty difficult par 5. You know, you got to throw a really good tee shot to be in position to kind of chunk, you know, a good bit of fairway off on the second one. So I'm interested to see how that one will play. I think it might play a little slow. I think there's a lot of trouble to be had there. You're going to see all kinds of different routes to get there. But that one's pretty exciting. Then they got the new tee pad on the next hole, and not quite as excited for that one. I think it's a good change. The old hole there was a little lackluster, especially if you could throw far. So they turned the hole into kind of a dog leg to the right, so it's harder to chunk as much off the tee, and so you have longer approaches into the basket. So I think it's going to score a little harder. I think it's still relatively easy. Like it's going to be scored pretty well by the MPO division, but it's definitely a lot more difficult than it was. So I'm excited for that one as well.
11th place here last year, and I guess compared to your standards now set this season, that's kind of a low finish. How different does your game feel like this year compared to last year now that you come back to this course?
I don't think my game really felt really that much different. There's a lot going on here last year for me, so you know, it wasn't necessarily the best tournament for me. You know, I got a swimmer's ear, turned into an ear infection, and then ended up at the ER 2 different times before 2 different rounds. So it wasn't necessarily, you know, a tournament that I felt super, you know, relaxed at. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, this course sets up pretty well for me. I think it really sets up well for a lot of people on tour. So it's really kind of a race to see who can get a lot of birdies and score well.
So you said your game does not feel that much different this year compared to last year. So physically, you're saying all the shots that you're choosing are very similar, but obviously you're scoring so much better. Has something changed with the putter, or is it just overall consistency?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been moments this year where the putter's definitely been better than it was at any point last year. And I guess my forehand is definitely feeling a little stronger this year than it was last year as well. But I don't feel any more or less confident on the course this year compared to last year. I think you know, maybe some slightly better decision making and maybe a slightly different mentality, just kind of sticking with it the entirety of the tournament, regardless of, you know, whether you're there to win it at the very end or not. But yeah, I mean, I'm feeling good, and I'm looking forward to playing this week.
So I guess another question that I have is a lot of people were wondering, you're throwing eagles a lot of the time. Sounds like you're throwing a new fairway driver, and people a lot of times online are asking what that is and why you're switching to that.
Yeah, I'm throwing them a Millennium Vila, very similar to the Eagle, you know, 7-speed fairway driver. You know, it's just a matter of cycling them into the bag and making them work. I still definitely have Eagles in the bag as well as Vilas. They're, you know, almost the same. So you know, I'm throwing them both for those straight shots, and then, you know, as I work them in, maybe some hyzer flip to turns.
Is that something that you had any part in designing at all?
Not so much designing, but I did get input. It does have my name on it with Millennium, so you know, I did have input on getting that into their lineup and working that in as like a kind of a signature model for myself.
Is that something that is ever on the horizon for you as a sponsored player, designing any sort of molds?
I did get to work on the Toro with Dave Dunn at Pace, you know, a couple years ago, and got to go through a bunch of iterations with him, working through that. So, you know, I've done it once. You know, it could possibly happen again, but there's nothing currently in the works.
Let's talk about the competition this year compared to last year. That seems like the common theme is there are a lot of players that are capable of shooting those 1050, 1060 rated rounds a little bit more consistently. Are you feeling that pressure from the rest of the field compared to previous years?
I do think the field is definitely getting deeper. I don't think I'm really feeling pressure. I mean, you do know that there's just a ton of people out there that can go off and shoot a great round, but I don't think that I'm not really too worried about what they're shooting. It doesn't really matter what everyone else is shooting until, you know, the very end when if you're in contention, it's kind of like a head-to-head kind of deal. But, you know, leading up to that, you're just kind of trying to get as many birdies as you can, and you're trying to play the course the best you can rather than playing an individual competitor.
At this point in the season, you're playing tournament almost week in and week out. Do any sort of nerves just completely dissipate when you step up to the first tee, or do you always seem to get a little bit of butterflies, so to speak?
I guess they probably dissipate a little, but there's always probably a little bit of butterflies, you know, on the first tee. But I think, you know, as time goes on with, you know, just playing season after season and, you know, just being later in the season, I think they definitely aren't quite as strong as they might be at the very beginning of the season.
Now, I guess the other question is, when you first started touring, when you first started showing your skills off to the disc golf world for the first time, was there any extreme nervousness starting to play these big courses for the first time?
Yeah, there definitely was nerves, and then there was also just learning how to play in front of a gallery. That's significantly different. I mean, it shouldn't make anything different, but it is. You know, you just have a bunch of people staring at you. But I did have I got to kind of work into that a little. I traveled out to some big events before I was officially touring when I was in college. So, like, I did get to play in front of some galleries. Probably didn't play great, but you know, it slowly became something I became more comfortable with, you know, throughout the end of 2018 and into 2019.
Talk more about playing with the cameras. Now, this year, the media effort is pretty large, and we talked a little bit about it last week, but are you the kind of player that just tries to tune out the cameras no matter where they're positioned, or have you asked them to move in the past when you're lining up certain shots?
You know, I can't think of a given instance where I've asked them to move, but I wouldn't be surprised if I have asked a cameraman to move. But most of the time, you know, they know where they need to be out of the way of, you know, a shot. So it's only when you get yourself in a kind of strange situation that a camera guy generally puts themselves in a position that's, you know, not necessarily optimal. So that's not a very common situation.
Let's talk about this week. So we're playing this course, a few changes. Everybody's trying to learn them for the first time. Tournament starts tomorrow. How does your game feel specifically this week in regards to how you're scoring out there?
Game's feeling good. The course is seeming pretty attackable. I think a lot of it's going to be dependent on whether or not we have any wind or not. It's been fairly calm, a little breezy out here this week, but I think it's set up to score really well, and I'm feeling pretty confident in scoring well out here.
Well, fantastic. Calvin, good luck next week, or this week, and we'll see you out there.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Joining us now is last week's champion at the Des Moines Challenge, Kristen Tatar. Kristen, you didn't play here last year at the Preserve, but the year before you won. So the last time you came here, you were coming out on top. How different does this place look compared to 2 years ago?
I mean, it pretty much looks the same. I missed playing it last year. I knew it's going to be a fun course to play on. I mean, there are some changes here and there, but the overall feel is the same, I guess.
I know there are some changes that are made out here. We caught up with you on hole number 5 when me and Kale were doing a course preview.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the new holes that are made, and how do you feel about your chances on them?
I feel the changes are good. I mean, I feel like the game plan is pretty much the same, and I feel like on every tee pad I already had an idea what to throw. It's just a matter of like executing. I love the course.
I did have a question for you. We talked about your putting last week in Des Moines. You hit some phenomenal putts in the wind. When your putting stroke is feeling as good as it is, how much time are you actually spending on the practice basket? Is there such thing as overkill?
I believe there is, yeah. So I believe when stuff's working for me, I just stick to my normal routine. I putt at each basket multiple times during the practice rounds, and I feel like right now it's enough. And if I were to have some problems, I would probably do some extra putting in the evening, which I haven't been doing lately. Yeah.
Well, I just want to ask a few more questions about that. When something, quote-unquote, doesn't feel right
Yeah.
with the putt, are you sitting on a practice basket actually thinking about putting form or mechanics, or is it just repping until something clicks and you get it back?
I remember a couple of years ago, I did have some like technical issues. I felt like, so I did. I remember like going out in the evening and trying to fix and trying to figure out what's working and what's not working, and that was between. I was doing like the normal putt and the straddle putt, so that was like that moment where I decided, okay, I'm gonna stick with one type of putting style and just try to execute it. But right now, I feel like whenever I'm missing, there's some probably like nerves or maybe some like subconsciously I feel some fear or something. So I just try to work that out, and then probably everything starts to flow again.
So you answered a question in your victory speech last week in Des Moines when I was talking to you about putting in the wind, and you told me you just felt angry that you went out of bounds, and it made you just putt harder, so to speak. Is that how you attack putting in the wind, really? Is it just putt harder? Like, is it really that simple?
I guess I don't know. I don't want to call it simple, but like there are some things that I have to think about more than without the wind, I guess. And I think putting a little bit harder or putting some more spin to the disc, it helps to fight the wind. So yeah, it's just a matter of what directions the wind is coming from. I aim at certain things and then put maybe a little bit more spin to it. But like, yeah, I think every kind of emotion could be your help, even anger or maybe even sadness, what we consider is like bad emotions. But they could help out on the course if you put that energy into the right place.
I appreciate that clarification. I was kind of blown away when you said that. That was very interesting. But I see you have your shoes off here. Looks like people are enjoying themselves out here. Are you staying on the course? Are you finding yourself in the Mississippi River at all this week?
No, I'm actually staying 40 minutes away, so in the city basically. But yeah, I mean, it's hot out here. It's nice to take your shoes off. It's just, I enjoy this.
So we're coming here. You've won quite a few tournaments this season. I guess I'll maybe ask you the same question I asked Calvin, who's having a great season as well. Do you ever feel a lack of adrenaline getting onto the course after winning so often?
To be honest, I've felt it this year for some reason. I don't know why. Last year, I didn't feel it at all. It didn't matter where I placed. I always had that like hunger to like go out there and get more wins and just execute well. But sometimes I could feel that, I don't know, my focus is somewhere else, so I have to like bring it back. I don't know, it's weird to explain it, but like I've been feeling it this year. Not that I don't want to win anymore or don't want to play disc golf well, but like I don't know what it's about.
Well, are there specific things you have to do? Is there like a meditation or like a self-talk that you have to do to get that feeling back, or is that just the nature of doing as well as you've done?
Yeah, I think just bringing yourself back to the present moment, because if you're on the course, I mean, you're on the course. You cannot be at home or doing some other kind of stuff. So just being in that moment and doing what you can in that moment to feel good. And I mean, obviously for us disc golfers is to execute great shots.
Yeah. Question just out of curiosity from me. You come, you play your practice round. What does the rest of your day look like out here on these practice days?
Right now we're staying so far away from the course, so driving takes up a lot of time, but otherwise me and Katie have been just hanging around, exploring new places. I mean, we're watching movies, going out for ice cream, that kind of stuff.
How was that ice cream after Des Moines, by the way?
To be honest, we skipped it because, I mean, we were just very hungry and it didn't seem appropriate to go straight to the sweets. So we went out in the city and ate some poke bowls.
Maybe that's a little bit healthier, but,
Yeah.
you know, part of being adults having ice cream for dinner sometimes.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I think there's obviously a lot of people pulling for you this week. Just in general, how does the body feel? How does the shot execution feel going into the tournament tomorrow?
I feel good right now. I think I have a solid game plan set, and I hope the weather holds. So far, it's been nice, and I look forward to competing here for I think it's going to be my last tournament before Worlds here on the U.S. soil. So I try to make the most out of it.
Well, here's a victory lap for the final stretch before Europe. Good luck, Kristen.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Joined here by potentially a new face for those of you who got into the game during COVID. But for those of you who've been around a long time, you know Alex Geisinger all too well. Alex, Minnesota native. This is going to be your first tournament back after a 3-year hiatus.
Yep.
Alex, you got up to a 1032 rating at one point when you were on the tour playing with the best. Talk about who you are, where you come from, and what your first taste of tour disc golf was like.
Well, I'm from Minnesota, Rosemont, Minnesota. I've got a wife and 2 boys back at home. Basically, it's blown up since I left 3 years ago. Everything seems a lot more official and professional. It's kind of cool to see. I'm excited for this weekend. Had a blast last night at the distance competition, and hopefully can put on a show at the Skins event today.
Well, let's talk about this, because I think one of your claims to fame when you were competing, probably the longest thrower in the world from a non-360 position. How was the distance competition last night? Do you feel like you held your own?
I was pleasantly surprised that I still had it. I haven't really thrown a full power shot until about a month ago in a couple years, because the course I play all the time is like 250-foot zone flicks.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool to come out and see what I can still do. Not ideal conditions with the wind shifting into headwind yesterday during that, but I think we had a good time, good turnout, and we all had fun.
I think for a long time people were wanting a professionally done distance competition, and sounded like Chris Taylor and his team pulled it off. Did you enjoy it as well as a competitor?
That was exactly what I hoped for 5 years ago. I wish in my prime I could have done that, but still did all right. But yeah, it was awesome. Something super official, having an actual fairway you got to land in to have it count, and it was awesome.
Is it shocking for you to still see Dave Wiggins after all these years, and him being away from the game still throwing as far as he does?
I don't know, man. It kind of shocked me how far I could still throw, to be honest, because I didn't feel like I had it anymore. I'm like, maybe do something decent, but second place I didn't expect. And Wiggins, that dude, I mean, he's a freak. He's been throwing far since before I started even playing, and he was like, what, 12? So, yeah. Props to him for winning, and that's why he holds the record.
Well, let's talk about your 3-year hiatus. I mean, why did you stop playing? What happened? And what did you do with those 3 years disc golf-wise? Was it nothing, or was it just fun disc golf?
It mainly started 2017. I hurt my shoulder pretty bad, and it basically eliminated my backhand game. I played sidearm almost dominantly for like 2 years. Kind of came to an end in 19, played a little bit in 2020, and then had a second kid, decided, hey, it's time to look into a career. Went back to work for Pepsi, which they're not going to be happy I'm calling in sick for this, but got to do it. So I played about a year. I don't think I played at all, and that was mainly just trying to let my shoulder heal itself. And then I got out. We have a really small course right by my house that my boys love playing with me, and we just started playing again. Kind of fell in love with the game again without the competition pressure, just throwing discs in the park, and it was great. And then, I don't know, I started talking to some old guys again and throwing some league rounds, and kind of got the itch again. And then Drew Gibson did that Twitter post a month or 2 ago talking about me on there, and started getting messages. So I was like, well, you know what? I'll come out and give it a shot, see what I still got, and just have fun this weekend.
How do you feel? Like game-wise, do you feel like you can go pretty low?
I feel pretty good. Might not have taken all the rust off yet, but I don't know. This course suits my game, so bombs away.
I remember playing with you a few years back, towards the end of when you stopped playing, and I could see that burnout was hitting pretty hard, and I think you even mentioned to me at some point, because like everybody else out here, it's a grind to have to play on the road and worry about finances and whatnot. Now that that's gone, now that you have the career and you have the kids and you have the stability, what is your mindset like coming back here to practice?
Honestly, this is probably a one-off. I mean, I have a life set, got a house, good job, and I'm just out here to have fun, honestly. It's great seeing all the people I haven't seen for years and just coming back to the scene. I don't know, I might play some bigger, like, regional events and stuff if I can get the time off of work, but nothing's set in stone right now.
let's talk about your kid. You post a lot of videos and pictures of your kid playing disc golf as well. What is his sports? What are his sports interests right now? Is disc golf the only one, or is he playing hockey like you used to?
No, I pushed it too hard when he was little, and he got sick of it, and didn't basically play for the last 3 years. And he just started playing again this year. My 4-year-old, I haven't pushed at all. He loves it. He's out in the backyard throwing at the basket every day, and he loves it. But my 10-year-old's finally at the point where he's starting to understand what I'm telling him, angles and what to throw, and he's starting to enjoy it. So I took him out to leagues for the first time ever last week, and he's like, "Dad, can we go to leagues again next week?" I'm like, "I got bigger plans next weekend, or next Wednesday, but with the distance comp yesterday." And so now that might be a regular thing. Might get him into it and see where he goes. But he's playing football, basketball, baseball. He's got championship baseball game tonight, actually. So
what is like as a parent with a kid in sports and disc golf being one of them, are you the kind of guy that kind of guides them along in their journey, or are you kind of hands off, letting them kind of figure out what they want?
Coach, full blown. I've coached every sport he's done until baseball this year. I'm like, you know what, I got to step back a little bit. You got to grow on your own. And now the 4-year-old's starting soccer in like next week, so I probably end up doing that as well, but I don't know.
Last question I have for you. Do you feel like you have what it takes to pull off a surprise win this weekend? It used to not be a surprise when you were on the tour, but 3 years of hiatus.
Honestly, I don't know. I'm just coming out, have fun, play my game, do the best I can, and whatever happens, happens. So we've
heard those words before. Some amazing stuff has happened. So good luck this week, Alex.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Joined here by the defending champion, Paige Pierce. Paige, I have a question for you. How tough was it lifting the Black Bear trophy up last year?
Very heavy. Heavier than it looks. I couldn't get it as high as I wanted to just lift it above my head, how good I felt, but not a chance.
What does it take to win at a course like this?
I think honestly just knowing your discs well. You have a lot of room to work with, so you can get into a rhythm of like where it just feels easy, but you still have to make sure you know what angles to release your discs on, especially when you're exposed in the wind like this. So I think just staying like mentally present and remembering every shot is important, even though it might seem like an easy shot.
I was noticing last week in Des Moines, you were throwing putter on a lot of tee shots that most of your competitors were throwing driver on. Is that something that's developed over time for you as a strategy, or have you always kind of been like that?
I think the Fierce is my most consistent disc in my bag as far as my physical capabilities with it. So I know I can throw at 300 feet dead straight on a rope. And so if I'm between really, if I'm like 100 feet to 320, that's my disc I'm going to choose. I prefer to throw on one angle, just dead straight, instead of hyzer and having to guess how wide to take it, how much the wind's going to bring it. If I know I can just throw straight, I think I'm most successful in that. So anytime I can, that's what I'm going to do.
Well, so then let's break this course down by distances. Do you feel like 300 to 320 is all you need out here distance-wise, or is distance still a very big advantage?
I think there's some really key shots where you have to throw quite a bit more than that. I think of, for example, hole 14. The tee shot is very demanding for the FPO. It's a carry. I would say the carry is probably like 360, and if you have any bit of hyzer angle, you're going to leak OB. So on those type of shots, for sure, I'm going to be throwing like a passion, something that stays straight and just pushes forward instead of hyzering out. But yeah, like a lot of plays, like hole 3, I'll probably throw putter, as long as it's not headwind. That's like right around that 300-foot mark. And the wall hole 8, putter there as well. So just controlling the speed and maybe putting it up and letting it float in like a catch shot.
Kale's made some changes out here on the course. Hole number 5 is brand new. There's a brand new tee pad for 15 overlooking the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
Thoughts this year, maybe aesthetically and challenge-wise, on these new changes?
Yeah, honestly, it's looking pretty similar to last weekend in Des Moines as far as like the short grass being the fairway being so short and manicured, and then the rough being very tall, contrasting grass that's waving in the wind. It looks beautiful out here, and I think the improvements were really good. I think the course is going to play a couple strokes harder with those changes, and yeah, I feel like I forgot what your question is, but yeah, now I'm just excited about the course.
You answered it pretty well, I have to say, Paige. I guess my question is, if you were designing a disc golf course, how much would the aesthetic nature of tee pads like the one on 15?
Okay, yeah.
How important is that for you?
I think it's super important, that's kind of like to make something beautiful and remind you, hey, we're not just rushing through this. Like, take a second, sit on this bench that was crafted by a human being. Like, like the bench on 14, just like seeing like that's a human being built that. Like, we're crazy species, but just like having a moment of like gratitude of like what you're doing, and not just like rushing through everything like you kind of do on the highway, like rushing to get to the next town, rushing to play the next tournament, just like chilling and enjoying it. And I think, yeah, if I did design a course, that would definitely be something I would want to make sure there's 18 like sanctuaries to chill at.
Well, I guess then that leads me into my next question. Does the dream that Kale manifested here at the Preserve resonate with you? Is that something that you'd like to do in the future?
To a certain extent, yes. I definitely want to create a course, like a sanctuary type of course that people can come to and just like be secluded. When you're here, there's 2 cars right now, but that's because we're at the parking lot. But like, you don't see cars driving by. Like, you're going to see bald eagles or dragonflies, but you're not going to see cars rolling through. Like, that's what I want if I design a course, or when I design a course. Like, I'm not trying to get on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I'm not trying to build a par 65. I just want like a place where people can come and like take the stress away from their whatever they have going on in their life. And yeah, this would be a great example of that. I think so.
And then talk about what you're doing here this week at the Preserve. Are you dipping in the Mississippi River?
Oh, yeah.
Are you enjoying yourself staying on site?
Yes, definitely. We're calling it Dog Island because there's like 12 dogs over there, and I'm in my happy place. But we're right by the pond and jumping in the lakes and stuff. And definitely, we've already floated the river twice, and I think I'm going to do that right after this press conference, and then get a little evening. The days are so long. Like, the sun goes down at 9:40, so like, I think I'm going to go play a practice round at like 6 and like in the cool weather, and, wake up and get ready to do it again.
You said your energy levels were very high last week at Des Moines. How are they feeling this week at the Preserve? Have they carried on?
Yeah, definitely. I think just staying in the rhythm now, like, you can see like on iPhones, it's like tracks your steps and stuff. And a couple weeks before Bonnaroo, it was like, you're you are half of the, on average, you're half of the steps that you've taken last year. And I was like, what? And then after Bonnaroo, I checked it and I was like way past that. And then obviously last week at Des Moines, and then I caddied for Kevin. So I was walking 2 rounds a day. And yeah, my stamina is at an all-time high, like at this part of my life, I would say. But yeah, I feel great. I feel like capable to play 3 rounds if that's what we need to do. Bring it on, tornado, lightning, whatever we got. You know, we all got to play the same golf, so I'm ready for 3 days.
I mean, people were remarking at your energy, you know, final round at Des Moines, and it, you know, score-wise didn't pan out the way that, you know, people wanted. Is that just a fluke? Was that just something that just, it happened as it was?
I'm trying not to think about it too much because, like, in my head, there was nothing wrong that day. Like, I woke up, I felt good. My body, I felt good. I felt confident. Yeah, I just didn't play well. And, like, I don't want to read into that because I played well the day before that. So, yeah, I'm just trying to forget that. I hope it was a fluke, you know, like we all have bad rounds and it sucked that one was to conclude my tournament and drop me 8 spots, but, it is what it is. And hopefully, you know, I can come out stronger this week.
So then let's talk about rest. I mean, you come out on tour and I think people are all saying we're prioritizing rest more than we ever have. But then you mentioned that you feel like when you're moving more, you feel more rejuvenated. Where is that balance for you?
Yeah, I think it's finding the balance. I talk about that a lot, but also in rest versus like activity. You know, I don't want to ever be stagnant and just like chill in my van, but there comes a time where even when you're on an island with 12 dogs and all of your best friends and everyone's playing catch until 1 a.m, like I have to just close my door and realize, hey, this is my rest time. Like, so since the sun's going down at 9:40, I'm kind of putting myself to bed like at 10. And that's my rest, like 10 p.m. to, honestly, I've been sleeping in till like 10 a.m. It's been feeling good. But, you know, while I'm awake, I'm go nonstop. But when that rest time comes, you know, like turn your phone on Do Not Disturb, shut the door, ignore the sounds of your friends' laughter out there and do what you need to do to recover for the next day.
It's resisting the temptation, it sounds like.
Big time.
Well, Paige, good luck this week. A lot of people rooting for you. We'll see you out there.
Thank you.
We'll be right back in just a few. Welcome back. Joined here by Ricky Wysocki. Ricky, just want to ask, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling all right. Wrist is not, I wouldn't say 100%, but yeah, it's just the ebbs and flows of playing a long season and yeah, so it's definitely not great right now, but I'm out here practicing and getting ready for the tournament.
What does practice look like for you now that you are having to worry about the wrist?
Well, it's, for me, it's never really been an injury that's affected by overuse. So that's kind of the weird part. So I can get out here and play as long as the pain doesn't affect my throw, which it does a little bit, but it's not too bad. And so it's just kind of playing through pain, which is a bummer, but I feel like I've got the game to where I play really well out here. So I want to be out here and try to keep my game in a good spot to where I feel like I have a chance to win, because I really like this course.
What do you like about this course? Cale had mentioned that he likes prioritizing fun above all else, but what do you feel about this place?
It's just a fun course. There's not, like, that's a great word for it, because there's not tons of holes where we got OB lining both sides of the fairway. Yeah, some holes may have OB on one side or the other, but it's pretty manageable. And so I think that's really that's why people enjoy playing this course. You're not stressing on every shot like USDGC, where you miss your shot by a foot and you're out of bounds and you take an automatic double bogey. Like out here you can score. You can try to there's the 2 par 5s you can get eagles on, and you can really make up some strokes there. And so there's always a fun shot right around the corner. Every shot is just enjoyable.
So let's talk. I know 18 is eagleable. I've even eagled that somehow as a lefty. But the other par 5, we have to talk about the brand new one. 14 and 15 got combined, and that's a pretty treacherous looking hole. Are you saying that is eagleable as well?
No, I think that, what is it, hole 8 or 9?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
That's maybe I'm thinking of a par. Is that they turned that into a par 4? The one that you got to throw kind of through the gap and then over that little canal river thing?
Yeah, par 4.
Oh, that's a par 4 now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking that was a par 5. But yeah, so there's definitely, I'd say, one eagle chance. I didn't know that they changed it, the par on that one. But
well, let's look at 14 and 15 combined into a pretty wild safari hole. Is there any chance at a 3 on that one?
No, you're not going to see any 3s on that. But yeah, it's definitely a 3-shot par 5. It's just too long, too much OB, that little gully in between. But yeah, it's a fun shot, and you might see someone gets hyper aggressive, but there's a lot of OB up there that prevents people from really throwing it as far as you can without any penalty. But yeah, I throw sidearm off the tee, sidearm, try to get myself in position to get a 4. 4 is a great score, especially when it gets windy out there. Being a peninsula kind of fairway, it's easy to go into the woods right or OB left.
You've known Cale for a long time. You've competed against Cale for a long time. Do you ever feel comfortable giving him course design input when you play a tournament here?
Yeah, oh, for sure. He definitely takes things into consideration when he's out here designing stuff. He's an athlete. He's been on tour. He sees the dynamic of the game, where the game's going. So he sees all the variables you need as a course designer to not get stuck in one mindset of like, hey, you want to have a short course with a big, 250-foot holes that bank left or bank right. He just sees the variety of shots, where some shots are forehand, some are backhand, some are Heiser, all the different shot shapes, all the different distances, and all the different pars that make a good course. And I think that he's done a great job here, and I think that that's what draws us players here.
Is this a goal for you in the future to have a preserve type facility, or are you just planning on competing for as long as you can? Yeah,
I think one day for sure. I like the country club. I want to have like a golf country club where you have like a nice pro shop, a nice restaurant. And just like you after a round of golf, you can go in the clubhouse and watch golf and eat a nice meal and all that stuff. So that's something that in my future I want to do something like that.
How long will that be? How long is Ricky Wysocki thinking about playing professionally? Is that something that you think about at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I think for me it's I take care of my body really well, and I think as an athlete that's the number one thing. That's where age comes in. Is if you don't take care of yourself, your career is going to be shortened. But if you take care of yourself and take care of your body, you can extend your career. And I think that I think 40 for me. That's as a disc golfer that takes care of myself and really watches stuff. I think I can compete at a high level up until then.
You won the Cascade Challenge a few events ago, and then the past 3 you haven't performed up to probably your standards. Where are those strokes being lost?
Yeah, for me it's just kind of, I've had a lot of rust just coming back, and I just need to get the reps playing tournaments, and really I try to come back and I want to play as good as I can right off the bat. And Cascade was a short enough course to where I could play and throw fine, but a lot of these courses now are bomber holes, and I'm just got to get my distance back. Really, that's the biggest thing. it's there, and I'm throwing a lot further than I was even just a couple weeks ago. And so it's really just getting that consistent distance to make these holes a lot easier. You know, when you're throwing a putter as opposed to a mid-range driver into these par fours, makes it a lot easier. And so that's where I'm at now. And for me, I'm just a confidence player. Once my game clicks and I get some momentum here or there, all it is maybe just a couple shots in a round to keep my momentum going. And once I make a lead card, I feel like that's where I really shine. And so that's where my goal is, just make a lead card, put myself in position, and then that's when I can capitalize.
Thank you, Ricky. Here's Josh for a few more questions.
Thank you.
Hey, Rick, you mentioned talking about how you're maintaining your body, and obviously you've been very vocal about your nutrition and focusing on that. How do you go about keeping your body physically strong? I mean, what are you doing for exercise outside of obviously traipsing through the courses and throwing discs?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have like a 10-15 minute stretching routine that I do every day. And then in the off season, we formulate a strength program where we're doing a lot of strength training for like 3 or 4 months in the off season. And so those two combined, I have an in-season and an off-season training routine to keep my body going, keep the fast twitch muscles firing, and that's what it's all about for disc golf. You got to have those fast twitch muscles going and keep that distance up.
Absolutely. So what would you say after playing practice rounds out here, what do you think the key is for you out here as far as performing at a high level as you seem to do every year here?
Yeah, no, like I said, I play really well here. I got a lot of confidence coming here, but for here, it's a thrower's course. Like Cale said, it's fun, but you have to be able to throw far. And you know, if the farther you throw, the easier it is to throw in these short up shots, 250, 200-foot up shots, as opposed to someone that maybe doesn't throw as far, has to throw a 320-foot up shot in the headwind. Big difference as far as percentage-wise getting up and down. And so the distance throwers have a big advantage. Of course, it's not all about distance, but the percentages in the long run are going to favor the distance throwers having those shorter up shots into these par 4s and 5s.
Excellent. Well, good luck here this weekend, and thanks for stopping by, Rick.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Joined here by Missy Gannon. Missy, I got to ask, What is the secret sauce for this season? It's been such a great, consistent year for you. How do you feel about it?
I think it's just a confidence in my game and a really simplified game. As everybody knows, it's not a joke. Like, I throw a thrasher on almost every hole if I can, and I think that just helps minimize any sort of confusion or doubt. It's just really straightforward and easy.
Well, I have to say, I've at least noticed commentating on the ground, your distance has come a long way. It seems like in the media, they forget that your distance has come really far. I saw the flex shot you threw in hole 4 at Des Moines last week, and to me that proved it. Have you been actively working on the distance this season, or has all the off-season practice paid off?
I think that, honestly, I was thinking about this the other day, and I haven't necessarily changed anything other than my angles. I was always a hyzer flip player. I've thankfully found some really stable runs of thrasher, so I can still throw the thrasher on more of a flat angle or even with a little bit of anhyzer depending on the conditions, and that's just naturally gaining me more distance based on how I'm throwing the disc. So I think that I'm again just throwing more confidently too. When you put some power behind a disc, it's going to go a little bit farther. So a few different things have contributed to that.
Now, my question for you, and I asked a similar question last week to Kristen, do you ever get tempted to stray from the thrasher only game plan to throw like a harder shot than you need to throw in certain situations?
Not if I can help it, for real. Obviously there are some shorter holes, like the island hole at DMC last week. I was throwing a fairway driver. I could have thrown a thrasher, but then I brought the long rough into play. So there are some areas and holes that I need to not throw a thrasher, but I honestly think that if I had to, I could throw a thrasher on every single hole.
Well, then let's talk about maybe the strategy there. Is choosing the right shot for the fairway, so to speak, or choosing the more confident shot more important?
In my mind, it's the more confident shot. Again, like, it's just if I know exactly what my thrashers do, I will be able to throw that shot more confidently and adjust for whatever conditions there might be. Obviously, ripping headwinds, I'm likely not going to lean on the thrasher for that particular situation, but I'm able to find other discs. Like, I have a really beat-in force that basically just flies like a really overstable thrasher. So I'm prepared for pretty much any scenario, which is really nice.
Well, it's been very intriguing to watch you just consistently score as well as you have. I asked a similar question to Kristen today about putting in the wind. You actually putted so well last week in Des Moines, even when the conditions were chaotic. What changes for you when the wind does pick up? Do you change your aim point? Is it literally just putt a little bit harder? What exactly do you do to address a windy putt?
There are definitely a few different adjustments that I make. I tend to putt with a tiny bit of hyzer, but if there's a ripping right to left wind, then I have to consciously putt flatter. But I'm putting relatively the same amount of power. If there's a headwind, I'm going to put a little bit more oomph on it just to mitigate any sort of weird reactions in the chains or something like that. But yeah, I'm really happy that I've developed a spin putt and have kept with the spin putt since I've started playing, because I do think that it's the most versatile type of putt that you could have.
Well, when it comes to throwing, you're also becoming more versatile. I've been seeing more sidearms coming out of you than I think I've ever seen. Is that accurate, and have you been putting a lot of work in?
Yeah, I have been. I want to be able to throw it when it makes sense, or be able to throw the scramble shots when I need to. I did kind of shy away from it a little bit recently because I was kind of shanking some, like kind of having like the yips, but only with sidearms. So I've realized that I throw flex sidearms a lot more confidently than I do the hyzer flip ups or the flat shots. So if that just means I have to throw more overstable disc and just let it work, I mean, Owen Scoggins makes it work, so I figured, hey, let me try it. So that's what I've been leaning on the most.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for that clarity. And here's Josh for a few more questions.
Thank you.
So, Missy, when you're out on the road, cruising around, going from course to course, tournament to tournament, like, this back to back to back weeks, what are you doing for fun? Are you doing anything for fun? How do you keep yourself relaxed away from the course?
Yeah, there's a few different things that we like to do if we can find it. For instance, here we have the Mississippi River right here, and so we're actually going to plan on going on for a little float right after this. Went on a float a couple days ago, and other than that, we like to do escape rooms. Pickleball was a thing, but that it got really hot. It's summer now, so we're like, maybe not trying to do that as much, and just to make sure I stay healthy and I'm not, overexerting myself. But yeah, there's just a few things, and just hanging out with friends, or that's pretty much what we like to do when we have some downtime. So yeah, it's been nice being here. This is always like the oasis that we can't wait to come to, because we're, like I said, we're staying right on the course. We have a lot of fun things to do around here, and our friends are here, so it's a great time.
Now, you mentioned staying healthy. What are you doing during the tour to maintain your health as far as physical? I mean, are you sticking to a fairly strict nutrition plan? Are you getting exercise outside of walking around, or what's up?
Yeah, well, I also have 2 dogs with me. Me and my husband and 2 dogs, so like we got to keep them entertained and exercised. But yeah, I follow a pretty strict gluten-free diet. Not because I have an allergy; it just makes me feel better, and minimizes the inflammation, which is nice. And I do a lot of prep. Warming up my shoulders and my elbow, and then afterwards I like to ice and just do things more on a preventative level. Thankfully, I've stayed pretty healthy. I've been sore here and there, but just trying to do whatever I can to make sure that my longevity on tour, stays that way.
Do you do anything special for the off season as far as trying to, add any extra strength or conditioning or anything like that?
Yeah, usually I do. I mean, I get to play often. I have had a couple of really busy off seasons with other ventures. So hopefully this season I will be able to have a little bit more of a routine. Being able to go to Uganda in the off season and with the Paul Macbeth Foundation was amazing. It just took a lot of time out of the off season, but I would have never traded it for the world. So we'll see. I need to figure out a better routine, and that'll probably include the gym or some home workouts, and just staying active and keeping on the disc golf train and trying to play as much as possible.
Excellent. Well, thanks much, Missy, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We are joined here by Carolyn Henderson. Now, Caroline, again, this is your first year on tour. We talked to you all the way back in Waco, talking about how you made the decision to come out here and kind of cut your teeth on the tour. How has that been so far for you?
Definitely probably the biggest learning experience of my entire life in many ways, like the mental side and the physical side. I think a lot of it was the mental side because like it is a grind, and so going out week after week after week, it can get a little hard, especially when you are new and you're making like rookie mistakes, and it's hard to not like take that personal, and it's hard to not let that go home with you. And so it's been a challenge to learn how to just like let it go, like after each of those shots or even after each round.
How many of the courses you've played this year on tour have been blind? Has it been all of them?
All of them. The only one that will be familiar is MAO, but we haven't played that one this year yet.
So talk about that. Talk about the experience of now playing a tournament based on the name of the tournament and not the name of the course that might suit you better.
Wait, ask it again? Sorry.
So sometimes when you're playing regionally, you'll pick tournaments based on the courses that you like playing.
Yeah.
But now on tour, you don't really have that luxury. You pick the next stop on the tour. So what's that like, having to play courses blind?
I like it. Like I like how each course is different. They all have different challenges. Like this one, there's like you have to hit lines, but there's still some open shots. Like DDO, like it was all open, but then you had so much OB, which made it so difficult. I just think they're all different, and it's challenging to learn.
Are you starting to slowly get used to having to step up and formulate a game plan on a hole that you've never seen before?
Yes, it's gotten significantly easier since it's hard sometimes because my game keeps changing. Like I decided that I didn't want to throw these types of angles anymore because they're not as consistent in certain winds, and so now I have to go to different discs and my bag changes, and so that part gets a little hard.
Well, can you let us in on these changes to your game now that you've played only tour golf? What does that mean, what you just said?
Yeah, so going into Vegas, I was throwing a lot of stable discs, nukes on Annie or flat, but in headwinds, they'll either turn too much, or in crosswinds they'll hold, and so I decided that it was, and the forehands were the same way, but I decided that throwing hyzers were more consistent than those Annie angles, and I can still get the distance, and I think it's more controllable distance. And I can use that same angle throughout my entire bag. Mid-ranges, I was having to switch back to hyzer instead of Annie, so everything's hyzer unless otherwise specified.
Talk about maybe not some physical changes that have happened over this season for you, but talk about the mental side. What have you learned about yourself as a person and an athlete?
It's hard for me to let go of control. That was the big thing about putting. I was so desperate to make a putt. I was trying to control the putt in, but it was making me miss, and I just would rather miss chilling rather than miss trying to make a putt, if that makes sense to the people.
Completely. You have also, it sounded like you made a post saying that you worked a little bit with Coach Chris Taylor, who is a big fan of biomechanics and all sorts of sports, and he's a very fascinating person to talk to, and it sounded like you spent some time. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so after Jonesboro, I spent a month at home, and it was primarily to fix air bouncing, and so my pull-through was coming up here it was hitting me in the chin sometimes. It was here, and so I literally could not throw discs high to save my life, or if I did, they stalled, and so we fixed a low reach back to up, and I don't get blisters on my fingers anymore. My ankle control, it's completely different. And now I think the only thing I have to work on is falling. Sometimes I fall on my front leg and the disc will drift, but it was mostly that. So he's helped me with that.
Well, you've done some coaching yourself, and you've made some instructional videos. It sounds like you're carrying on your passion for softball into this. And how much about teaching the sport of disc golf did you learn working with Coach Chris Taylor?
It actually kind of it verified how I used to coach, because it's sometimes you'd get clients who you didn't see eye to eye, but I'm telling you, this is the way you should approach this, and that's how he approached it with me, so it kind of made me feel verified. I know how to do this. I know how to coach and teach, and I can teach myself.
Well, you've made some fantastic content, by the way. It's
Thanks.
been very well done, and I want to maybe zoom in a little bit more on this week. We're here at the Preserve. The players seem to universally like this place. How do you feel about your chances out here?
I believe if I can get the distances off the tees that I need, I can set myself up to get the birdies. Otherwise, it's just sticking to that new default angle, those hyzer angles, because several of these holes, it's the same fairway 4 or 5 different times. So it's consistent, and that's what I'm going to try to stick to, try to stay to that angle.
Fantastic. I guess last question is, this is your first time playing here, blind. What do you think about the facility itself, and are you staying on site?
No, I'm not staying outside. We're staying in an RV park. I love this course. I love the natural OB. I like the way it's designed. I think it's fair. It makes sense. It's not hot. At least it's not hot for me because I'm from Texas. So, no, it's a beautiful piece of property.
How are you feeling at this point in the season, just overall, just emotionally, mentally? Have you felt any burnout at this point yet? I know sometimes the first year on tour can kind of wear on you.
No, Jonesboro was burnout. Like, that was like completely mentally fatigued burnout. Like, I didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, I'm out. I'd rather just go home. And after I had that break, like, now I'm like ready to go, and like I know how to not take it personally.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for the insight and letting us in on what you're feeling on this first year on tour. Good luck. A lot of people rooting for you. We'll see you out there.
Thank you.
We'll be right back in just a few. Welcome back. Joined here by Stacy Ronsley. Stacy, you had a fantastic, I would say, career-defining performance last week where I think you showcased a lot of your skill sets. Has the dust settled after that performance?
No. I think I'm still like in shock at, all the podcast invites and interview questions, and I just, I've been waiting for this moment for 2.5 years, 3 years, and now that it's here, I'm just still kind of blown away that it's happened, and I don't know, I'm just still kind of on cloud nine with it.
I mean, you've put a lot of work in over the years. You've been out here. I remember you coming out with your little trailer that you towed behind your car all those years ago, and now you're still here going at it. And I have to ask, was that weekend the moment where everything felt like it finally paid off?
It's still not there. I don't know. I feel like one weekend isn't enough to solidify being in the top 10. In general, I have really high goals for myself in my career. So I think I still have room to grow, and I don't think I've like peaked at all. But yeah, I've put in a lot of work to be here. So.
And I guess I'm saying that because just watching you play, it felt like even when you made a mistake, it was a very minimal mistake. It looked like you belonged in that position shooting the round that you shot.
Yeah.
One of the main things that really impressed me was the putting consistency.
Thank you.
You say that with a big sigh of relief. Talk about your journey with the putting and the training on the putt and the mental side of it as well.
So when I first started putting, started playing disc golf, putting was by far the strongest part of my game. And then I developed an elbow issue when I finished my putt. It would jerk my elbow, almost hyperextending it. I had to go to physical therapy, and they had to literally push it back into place. So since then, I've been for 2.5 years been trying to figure out a new putt for myself, and that has been a very frustrating, very difficult process that I don't think I got resolved until MCO this year. My boyfriend at the time, we were talking, and he just kind of said, in the time that I've known you, you've never changed your putt. And I was like, I've literally changed it so much since I've met you. And he was like, you've literally done the same putt so many times. Just keep stop changing everything or stop trying to fix a motion that's not wrong. You've done the tens of thousands of reps with it, so just continue with it. And it was game changing. And now I just don't even think about my putt. I don't putt until my mind is completely blank and I'm not thinking about a single aspect of my putt, which is crazy different from what it's been for the past 3 years. So
well, you talked to me and said that mental side of the game is something that you're actively, tangibly working on. What is it? Is it reading books? Is it listening to podcasts? What is the thing that maybe has helped you to solidify that, or at least improve it to the point where you performed like you did last weekend?
Definitely a lot of books helped. With Winning in Mind, I think, is the biggest one that's helped me the most. And it talks about your 3 diagrams: your conscious play, your subconscious play, and your self-image all have to be in a line to be basically in the flow state. And that's what happened for me last weekend. I finally gained my confidence in my game as I've been slowly improving and recognizing that I don't need to think about my putt as often. I don't need to think about my throw as often. And it's just coming way naturally, more smooth. And that's just been the game-changing thing for me. And just outside of disc golf, cleaning up a lot of loose ends and resolving a lot of issues with people and with myself. And that's been really helpful too.
Well, I still have to say, it felt like you had played in front of a crowd every weekend because of the way you interacted with them. Was that something that you were super looking forward to going into that final day?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I'm a social person, and I'm always so grateful for the spectators and the fans. And I was nervous going into it, and I said, you're in a fight or flight response. You can turn that nervousness into excitement if you so choose. So I chose to be excited about it and embrace everybody in the crowd and try to make myself comfortable with them, and it worked.
Well, it was certainly entertaining, but now we come into this week. Let's zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a softball question, but do you feel like that momentum from last week will continue on here? Do you feel that way during your practice rounds?
We'll find out. I don't know. I don't really have expectations going into this week. I feel like a lot of times I see players have their breakout weekend and then they fall the next weekend. And I think the pressure just gets to people. So I think for me, my biggest thing is just to keep being confident, keep riding this ride, and whatever happens, happens, and I have no expectations. If I fall this week, I fall this week. I don't know. It's okay.
Riding the lightning bolt. I love it.
Yeah.
Here's Josh for a few more questions.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi.
So after your breakout performance, like we were just talking about, how has the influx of social media been for you? Has it been crazy? I know you mentioned talking about podcasts and things like that.
Yeah, it's definitely been. I feel like I wasn't really a name on the tour, and then I feel like last weekend my name definitely got out there, and so definitely I got hundreds of messages that I think I got to everybody, but if I didn't, I'm really sorry. Yeah, it's just been interesting because I just didn't feel like I was anybody on the tour, and now my name's out there and I'm getting all of this attention for it, and I don't think I was ready for it. So it's definitely different.
And has that shift, as far as that goes, has that hit you specifically, or is it too quick to turn around to say that you've been impacted by that?
I definitely think it's too quick. I think I go home this weekend, and so after this week, when everyone goes to Europe, I'm home for 3-4 weeks, and I think I'll actually like decompress from like the entirety of the beginning of this tour, and it's like my split between the front of the tour and the back of the tour. And I think that's when it'll actually settle in that like I took third place at an Elite Series event, which has always, been a dream. So yeah, it definitely hasn't hit yet.
And what would be, in your opinion, what needs to change or improve in your own game to take that from third to first?
Just consistency, just staying confident in myself and just keep this mentality and this confidence that I have and keep pushing with it, I think is just experience, I guess, just more time.
And here at the Preserve, the new changes on the course, anything that strikes you specifically as very excited for the course, or anything that maybe you're like not so excited for?
Not really, not in the course design. This is my favorite event all year. We get to camp out on the course. Everyone's interacting with each other and hanging out all throughout the week. And I think this course design plays very, very well for the FPO. And so I don't know about MPO. I haven't asked them. But for me, I think this course plays to my strengths quite a bit, just like the last few courses have. And I mean, this property is gorgeous, and I have zero complaints about anything about this course.
And when you're out on the road traveling, specifically recently we've had back-to-back Elite Series events, what are you doing to take yourself out of disc golf mode? Doing to relax, enjoy the time that you have, what little bit you may have?
I don't know if I have a mode outside of disc golf mode when I'm on the tour. I guess hanging out with my friends, doing like campfires and music nights and playing a little bit of Pokemon on my Switch, a little bit of Zelda, kind of takes me away from it, I guess, playing with my dog. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think we really have an off switch when we're out here until we actually like go home and decompress. But
and does that bleed into practice rounds? You get a little event frenzy going into the practice rounds too?
100%, yeah. It can get really exhausting out here, but I mean, it's the dream. Everyone's out here because we love disc golf and we want to be here. And this is, you're going to struggle no matter what you do in your life. Everything's going to be difficult, and you choose your difficultness. You like choose your stress, and I choose disc golf stress. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Stacy, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Joined here by Eagle McMahon. Eagle, we saw you practicing out there on the course. Do we have the green light from you? Are you going to play this weekend?
Oh yeah, I hope I'm playing this weekend. I took a flight out here, got 2 practice rounds in, so I'm hoping that I'm competing tomorrow.
Well, let's jump back then, because you haven't played since the Portland Open. You mentioned that your shoulder was hurting again. Was that more of a preventative measure to take time off, or did something actually affect you negatively?
Yeah, I won't go into too much detail about it, but it definitely, something after the round of round 1 definitely happened that I knew it would not have been smart to continue playing, and I know my shoulder at this point, and I just figured that it would be about 2 to 3 weeks before I could play again. Was hoping to play last week, but I unfortunately got sick, so non-shoulder related, but I'm here now.
Well, are you feeling excited to be out here playing? I mean, I'm sure it's probably frustrating to get sick the moment you're supposed to come back physically.
Yeah, I'm pumped to be out here. I've always enjoyed coming out to the Preserve. It's really nice because it's a disc golf property. There's no roads, there's no sidewalk. It's minimal distraction, so it's really nice to have a whole property designated to disc golf.
Well, talk about your practice rounds this week out here. Have you been feeling 100%, or are you kind of having to pull back a little bit on the power to save the shoulder?
I would say I'm back to about where I was before Portland. So what you've been seeing is kind of what you're going to expect from me. I was throwing 600-foot shots out there today, and a little forehand here and there, but honestly, this course doesn't really call for too much forehand. So honestly, I feel like I'm back to what I kind of once was.
That's great for yourself as well as all the people watching. Let's talk about the course itself. I know Cale had mentioned one of his big philosophies in course design is balancing the challenge and the fun factor along with the aesthetic. Do you find yourself enjoying the golf out here?
I think it's super solid. Not a lot of unnecessary out of bounds, which is my favorite. Like I don't like to feel double punished a lot of time, and I think Cale does a really good job out here. But he works with the land he's given, and we're still throwing a few technical shots on the front side and even on the back. So you got a really great variety, and that's my favorite kind of golf, when you're throwing every shot in your bag. And I feel like we get a pretty good template for that out here.
Well, I want to ask you a specific question about a hole. I know 14 and 15 were combined into a 1 par 5 that plays along the Mississippi. Ricky almost laughed at me and said there's no chance that anyone's going to get an Eagle 3 on this one. What do you think about that? Do you see someone getting into Circle 2?
I don't think so. I think it'll be a throw-in, just the way it shapes up. Even if you went aggressive off the tee, you kind of find yourself down in a gully, and you're not going to have good footing. So a good drive's to where the old tee pad is, and no one eagled it from there. So I don't think we're seeing a 3 unless it's a throw-in.
Okay. I will accept that from you. I figured you'd be one of the people that'd be taking a run at it if possible. Let's talk about, I guess you could say, the lack of the power forehand this year and what it's done to your backhand overall. We've been seeing you move the disc left to right a lot more. How has the progression with the backhand been for you? Has it been a fulfilling experience having to throw different types of lines?
You know, it is. Like, honestly, I don't miss it as much as some people think I might. Some holes, definitely, you want to throw a forehand, but I just feel like stepping up to certain shots, I'm more confident, and I just look at the shot in a different way. And you lose what you don't practice, and a lot of the times I've really relied on my forehand. I threw it probably in places that I really shouldn't have, and when you're using a forehand or using whatever shot a lot, that's the shot you're going to get good at. So having backhand being my main utility right now, that's I definitely feel a certain level of confidence with it compared to where back in the day I was just using backhand for when I had to use it.
Is there a specific shape or line that you're throwing more this year that's particularly satisfying to throw?
I would say that I mainly just try to throw straight when I can, whether it's a fairway drive. I throw a lot more fairway drivers now, because back in the day would throw maybe like a high-speed driver on a forehand. So it might be like a Mindbender MD1 mid-range shot, or an FD2 off the tee a lot more often.
Well, I appreciate you letting us in on that. I think it's a progression of your game that all the fans at home are kind of paying very close attention to. Let's talk about maybe this week in general. How are you lodging yourself this week? Are you staying out here on the course? Are you jumping in the Mississippi River? What are you doing out here?
I'm actually bunking with James Proctor, Eric Oakley. Since my plans kind of got messed up last week, I was going to have the van up here with my girlfriend Ratana, but after getting sick, going to Europe next week, I figured that it just makes sense for me to take a quick trip, get on a plane, and shout out to Thomas. He's letting me borrow his car, so just making everything as economical as possible right now.
Well, thank you, Eagle. We appreciate that. Here's Josh for a couple questions.
Hey, Eagle. So it was pretty widespread news previously when you decided to forego your vegetarian and vegan ways and add meat back into your diet. I want to know, and I'm sure other people want to know, how's that been going for you? Is it still maintaining the status quo on that?
Definitely. It's I don't fault anyone for doing a vegan diet. I think it's incredible. It takes a lot of discipline, and I honestly miss a little bit of that discipline aspect because it's a lot easier to slip up now. But since I went off the diet, or off the lifestyle, as some people would say, back over a year ago now. So feeling good. I gained 15 pounds over the off season. Definitely feel a little bit more muscular, and it's just a lot easier to find food now. And it's all a mindset thing, in my opinion. If you believe what you're doing is good, it's probably going to be good for you, just for the mental side, and the mind-body connection is a real thing. So I feel confident what I'm doing right now, and I'm feeling great.
So when putting meat into your diet like that, what's been the one thing that you had that was just absolutely amazing, blew your mind, didn't understand why you went so long without it?
That's a good question. I could say a lot of things. A lot of the vegan knockoff things are actually like somewhat close to what the real thing is, but the one thing is it's got to be like steak or a brisket. There's no comparing to it. You can't mimic that texture.
And you mentioned in the off season putting on this 15 extra pounds. I mean, how has this changed your approach to the physicality and physical training?
It definitely hasn't. Ever since 2018, I've tried to be as diligent as I can be in the gym, taking care of my body. I think it's just a testament to say how much more bioavailable the protein is, and how much easier it is to get on more of an animal-based diet rather than a plant-based diet. Not to say you can't do it, but we've been eating meat for the course of centuries upon centuries, so it's a lot easier for the body to figure out what to do with that protein.
Perfect. Thanks, Eagle. Good luck this weekend, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. Joined here by Assistant Tour Director Phil Delaunay. Phil, it's been a bit of a chaotic stretch of the tour this year. Can you talk about how you're doing and the rest of your team?
Yeah, I think I'm doing great with the help of my team. We got a fantastic operations crew on the ground. Multiple trucks, trailers, covering a lot of miles. So we've been from Jonesboro, OTB, BSF, Cascade, Portland, DDO, Des Moines. And after this weekend, we get a little breather, I think. Get some routine maintenance on our bodies, on the trucks, trailers, flat tires, all that operational things that people don't see behind the scenes. But I think we're excited for the little break that we're about to get and go across the seas to over in Europe. So,
how quickly is the turnaround event to event? What does that setup and teardown look like, and then having to drive 8 to 10 hours to the next stop?
Yeah, it's taxing. It's good though. We try to do it as efficiently and as we can. For instance, DDO, we're packing up the trailers till into the night in order to get them down to Des Moines in time in arrival. And the same thing, 3 Elite Series events in a row. So we have 2 trailers, one advances and one stays behind. As you guys see at home and know, we have trusses, tents, sponsor obligations that we need to put out there. So we try to pack it down as fast as we can, travel on Mondays, set up a little bit if we can, if the drive's not too long, and then try to have everything done Tuesday for competition and fully set for the players. So it's taxing. It's if everything's mostly done, we get a breather on Wednesday, Thursday, kind of split some shifts, and then go right back in it for the weekend. So it's busy.
Well, we have, similar to OTB, we had a lawsuit and a legal proceeding, and we have a ruling. In regards to Natalie Ryan's eligibility playing the tournament. And she is officially, it sounds like she is playing. Can you give us some details on that?
Yeah, so that came up yesterday, and we sent her an email link to register for the tournament. Everything went well. So Natalie will be playing this weekend. One thing that we're committed to as a DGBT and DGN is to adhere to our community guidelines with all players and competitors. So she is a competitor this week. We'd appreciate that. That's it. And the rest, I'm not going to touch on the rest of the topic, but for the most part, we will be ensuring that she's safe and people are safe as any other competitor in the field.
Fantastic. Well, then we come, and I appreciate you giving us that answer. And let's zoom back to the tournament now. Obviously, running a private facility is a huge undertaking in the disc golf world. It's easier to work with golf courses because they have the lawn care staff and they have everything nice and polished. When it comes to a private disc golf facility, is it easier or more challenging for you to work with the team?
I think it all goes down to the infrastructure and the amenities that we have on site. I think Kale and his team and what they've done at the Preserve for over the last 4 years has been great. Partnering with, Charlie, TD Odie. We have a great guy on the ground here, Josh, that's cutting all the fairways, making sure everything's staying manicured. One thing that they did for the players this week and people camping on property, which is something we've never seen in disc golf, there is a shower trailer for players and campers with an 8-stall shower trailer, full AC, hot water, and there's also player amenities for bathrooms with regular plumbing and AC as well. So we've struggled. We have generators out here. We have a partnership with Furman, a generator company out of the Carolinas that definitely helps us make some of these other activations happen on site. We have a tough thing here because we have 1 power pole and 0 fresh water. So we have a 2,500 gallon reservoir on site. We have different water obligations for the players. We're powered by a water company right now through Coca-Cola to get us out here with all the beverages and refreshments for the entire staff and players. So it's a struggle at times. However, I think that with this being our 4th year at the Preserve, we've really kind of figured out what works, what doesn't, and we just keep expanding. So this is probably the best accommodations, I think, for the players and fans alike. We've gotten people closer and closer with spectator rope, and just take out all the infrastructure. One of the things the Preserve is meant to be is to show the nature and show the ponds. We're right here on the Mississippi. It's a beautiful place. It's going to be a little hot and muggy this weekend, and maybe the winds might kick up, but it's going to be excited to see how people attack 54 holes of golf and just let everything stay on the golf course and see what happens with that. It's going to be hopefully a good showdown.
Do you foresee more facilities like the Preserve popping up in the future that will be able to accommodate Disc Golf Pro Tour events?
I think so. I think that it's a needed thing. Every course that we go back to, they should be thinking about what we can do to better the fan and player experience for the next year, whether that's building a permanent bathroom off of hole 9 for a break, or getting a better parking lot infrastructure, running power. A lot of things now we're kind of going into the broadcast. We're trying to get internet and fiber cords places, and just relatively useful things that we need as we keep expanding as a company and a community in the sport.
Well, I appreciate that insight, and let's jump into you, Phil, the disc golfer. You toured a little bit on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. You're an open player from Michigan. How much disc golf do you get to play these days?
I don't play often. However, I've played 9 rounds all year since January. I'm counting them on UDisc. I'm trying to get to like 20, I think. But yeah, we played a good doubles event with all the operations coordinators, and just to go over the logistics of the course. There's a lot of movements that happen that people don't notice. So where to send spectators, where to send VIPs, where to do credential checks, where camera guys are staying, where they're not. And that kind of allows us to check for OB lines, competition readiness. And yeah, I threw an ace the other day, I don't know, at Des Moines, 472 feet. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to myself for this ace. I'll probably never do it again. I'm 33, and my body definitely felt it after throwing because I'm not in consistent shape. But
do
yeah.
you miss the tour life? I know you live that minimalist van life that so many people do. Do you miss that?
It was good for the time being. Something that I'm just thankful for that happened in my life was the opportunity to make it happen. It was an unfortunate circumstance that many people went through in different ways with COVID, but that allowed me to kind of take a step backwards from working for multiple event companies. While the world was on pause, because I was doing 500 to 25,000 people events, and it was like, okay, I play disc golf recreationally and competitively a little bit, but it allowed me to kind of go out there and have some fun. Got on coverage a couple times. Yeah, good times all around. So,
well, Phil, we really genuinely appreciate you making this transition and having that touring player insight when we run events like this, because you do see the things behind the scenes and from a player's perspective. Thank you. We'll see you out there this week. Round 1 tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Excited for the finish. Take care.
Welcome back. Joined here by Gannon Burr, last week's Des Moines Challenge champion. Gannon, I have to think that that's probably a very memorable victory for you that you'll remember for a very long time. Has the dust settled from that?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I'm just moving on to the next week after, it happens for me after every win I have. I, enjoy for a couple days and then really focus on the next tournament.
Talk about, I guess you could say the momentum from last week. You played good, but I know that you made some mistakes out there that you had mentioned. Do you feel like you have to improve anything this week in order to take down another victory at the Preserve?
I think I'm just going to play about the same game plan. I just need to. I threw the disc really good at Des Moines, which was kind of saved my butt. Putting was solid, but I definitely want to putt a little bit better. It's always pretty windy out here, and obviously the final round at Des Moines was super windy, so I feel comfortable in the wind at least, especially when we have courses that have, you know, a little bit of OB. I know this year we had the course is going to play a little bit harder, a little bit more OB. A couple tee shots got a lot harder. And just like, little changes with the OB makes every hole a little more difficult, and you have to think a little bit more. So with the wind, I think I'm going to probably have my same game plan where I'm just playing like pretty conservative. And if I give myself, there's four par fives out here, so I feel like if you break those par fives down into like 350 per shot, if you can bite off more per shot, that's even better. But you can go 350, 350, 350, and then you have a birdie. So I'm kind of just looking to do that instead of going big and then potentially having an easier birdie where I'd rather just guarantee myself a chance, because I feel like 75% of the time I'll get a birdie, so it'll work out pretty good.
Talk about that decision between playing conservative and playing aggressive. I know when young players come on the tour for the first time, they do play very aggressive. And is that just the feeling of having to catch up to the people who are usually winning the tournaments?
Maybe. I feel like there's like a fine line of if you can be aggressive or not, and for me that depends on the week, on how I'm feeling. So if my throwing doesn't feel good, it's not worth it to go aggressive. And I feel like that's where a lot of players find issues. Maybe they have everything it takes, or they have the shots but they're not consistent enough with it to where there's like a threshold of you have to be a certain amount of like skill, I guess, to be able to go aggressive for it to actually pay off, because you can go aggressive, and if it works 50% of the time, you lose a coin flip half the time, and then you take a bogey. Where if you are aggressive 75, or you can execute it 75% of the time, and while being aggressive, you're gonna be more under par than you are closer towards the even, where maybe someone who isn't as good at executing those harder shots would be at. So it kind of just depends on situation. Maybe you have a headwind on a hole that is already playing hard. It's really not even worth going for at that point. So it kind of just depends. I'm a very situational player where I almost never throw the same disc in the tournament as I do in practice if the conditions are different. I'm not really one that will throw the same disc on a different angle. I'll just throw a different disc on the same angle, so that way I don't have to play with the angles too much.
That makes sense. And I guess when we zoom into this course, zoom into the Preserve, how it looks this year, is there any specific hole where aggression is a big advantage, or do you feel like you can play conservatively on every hole out here?
Maybe on a couple of the par fours that don't have OB. So except for like hole 6. Hole 6 is always a hole I literally step up to and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a bogey, I don't really care, move on. I've 17 more holes other than that. Hole 6 is so difficult. I don't think there's any OB on that hole. It's just so tight, and if you don't hit the first gap, even the second gap, you're gonna bogey. So I think though there's a couple par fours out there where I can't remember. I think it's new 15 maybe, where tee box got shifted a little bit further right, so it pinches the angle off more. Like I'm gonna be going roller off that tee pad, going a little more aggressive. I know a lot of people are just playing an air shot, but there's not too much to really mess up there. So if there's a hole where there isn't danger, it's worth going aggressive. If there is danger, you play safe and let other people make the mistakes.
You mentioned last week, I was behind your card, final round. You mentioned on hole 14 that you were trying to line up a grenade on the second shot, which that's a pretty aggressive play. How often do you practice that line or even throw it in tournaments? That was actually one of the first times I had heard you even talk about throwing that.
Yeah, I threw 1 or 2 grenades at DDO. I have like a good 300-foot range where if it's 300 feet, I can really just put it up there nice and high. I throw my X1, which is super flat and super overstable, so it almost goes a little bit left for me, so it works. Myself, I have trouble throwing hyzers. I have a hard time getting a hyzer angle out of my hand. I'm more like when it looks like I throw hyzer, it's me just throwing overstable, flat and high, and it dumps. It's not really like actually hyzer out of my hand. So if I need a shot where other players might be throwing spike hyzer, I'll throw a grenade, and it's something I've been practicing, not intentionally, but I'll be at a course just jacking around, and I'll maybe throw it 3 times around just for fun, just to be like, oh, check this out, guys, with my friends or something like that,
And just a quick question. I know Kevin Jones, who throws probably the most on tour, he does that claw grip where his pointer fingers same as
grip.
you.
I found it gets a little more. It acts more as a power grip because you have more surface area on the disc. Where I know the grip that Eagle uses is, I don't know if he uses just the tip of his thumb or his entire kind of pad of his thumb right there, but for me it hurts a little more and I don't get as much speed. But with the pointer finger on the rim and the thumb over, I really get a nice firm grip on the edge of the rim and then just keep my arm loose, and it seems to go decently far. Actually, I've definitely put on distance, and it's not something that you can really practice. You kind of just got to mess around with it, and it gets better over time.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gannon. Here's Josh for a couple questions.
Gannon, being so young and on tour, other kids your age that obviously aren't professional disc golfers are out not really caring about their bodies, not taking care of themselves. What are you doing out on tour are you doing anything, even for that matter, to take care of yourself, healthy-wise, diet-wise, anything like that?
I want to improve diet-wise for sure. I definitely don't eat the healthiest. But I think during the off-season is mostly where I keep my body in good shape. I have a hard time during the season really getting, a more intense workout in, just because if you're sore, you play really bad because your muscles don't know what to do, and it's constantly changing, so it's a little bit harder. So for me, I like to do most of my work the second the season ends, and then start in the off season, and then keep that going up until All Stars or Vegas. Pretty much is what I did last year. I noticed a lot of differences in my legs specifically. I wasn't really getting tired walking up hills. I wasn't fatigued after rounds, and I think that's helped me a little bit. Just stay just a little more. Just being active in the off season, definitely running a little bit helped a ton for my just not being exhausted on the course and stuff like that. But yeah, during the season I don't really do too much. I make sure I stretch before and after the rounds. That way, I always come home after a round pretty tight. Make sure I drink a lot of water and stretch for sure.
All right, so throwing the nutrition and healthy stuff out the window. You have the pick out on tour. It's your turn to pick the place to stop and eat. Your choice, anywhere. Where are we going?
Oh boy, there's so many good places. Depends where we're at in the country. I'm a Culver's fan, Freddy's we have in the Midwest kind of. If not, I'll just go get a steak at Texas Roadhouse. That's also a go-to. If I have a steak place, I'll just go there. So not too unhealthy, I guess.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, well, good luck out there, Gannon. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.